A young man must pretend he doesn't like women if he wants to be part of a prestigious school. Will he make it? Meet Kagurazaka Kamito, just your average guy living a totally normal life. One day, just like any other, he's at school chatting with a classmate when he decides to step out to grab something to drink. Right then, a squad of 5 insanely buff dudes wearing sunglasses and tight clothes that show off their muscular bodies snatch him up in the school hallway and whisk him away. After they tie his hands and gag him, they throw him into a car without giving any explanation. Despite their intimidating appearance, these guys don't seem all that threatening. It's almost like they're trying to prove their masculinity. Still, it's not exactly a pleasant situation, and Kamito can't help but worry. Next thing he knows, the car stops in front of a mansion, and the guys toss our protagonist out onto the street, right in front of the building. A maid appears and helps him get free. Kamito's like, "Who are you, and what the heck is going on?" The maid tells him it's rude to use informal language with a stranger, marking him as clearly common folk. She also says they brought him here this way to avoid drawing attention. Yeah, right, because a bunch of muscular guys kidnapping a tied-up kid in broad daylight doesn't draw attention at all. But hey, this is Japan, anything's possible. As the maid escorts him to where he needs to go, she explains that this institution isn't known to the average person. It serves as an educational facility where daughters of major businessmen are taught how to be proper ladies at the Saikin Girls' School. From this day forward, Kamito will be attending school here. Everything's been arranged, and his parents have already signed off on it. Kamito has no clue what's happening, especially why he'd be the only guy there. The maid then shares that they'd noticed a big issue in recent years. Since everyone at the institution, including maids, teachers, and janitors, is female, the girls spend most of their lives only interacting with women. This leads to a massive culture shock when they enter the real world and inevitably have to deal with men, as life outside is vastly different, kind of like the shock Barbie experienced when she hit the real world and it was nothing like Barbie Land. This leads to many girls who graduate feeling absolutely awful. They just can't handle being treated the way they are outside and end up cooping themselves up, cutting their lives short on the internet just to avoid the shock of interacting with another guy again. So, our main guy's job in this place is to be a sample of the average dude and male species for the girls attending the school. Kamito is the perfect choice because, besides being super average in every way, from his grades to his skills, he's gay, which supposedly makes it safe for him to be in an all-girls school. However, the headmistress got it totally wrong, and Kamito starts saying he's not actually gay, he just doesn't hang out with women because he's shy. That's when they tell him that's a problem, and if he's really attracted to women, they'd have to stash him somewhere on the globe where he can't spill the beans about the institution and keep him locked up, or worse, snip his manhood. Seeing as neither option is particularly appealing, Kamito decides to pretend he's into buff dudes to save his skin. After briefing him on the situation, they introduce him to his class, freshman year. There, the class president, Reiko, along with all the other girls welcome him. You can tell these girls are from a different world because they're shocked from the get-go that Kamito refers to himself using I. Then, they see a smartphone for the first time and totally freak out. To thank our guy and show her gratitude, instead of just saying thanks, Reiko writes him a letter with a pen and wraps it in a gift box. Seconds later, a girl from the class named Aika drags Kamito off and tries to make him kiss her because she heard that kissing a commoner would make her wishes come true. Kamito quickly stops her and explains that's not how things work. Embarrassed, Aika dashes off, right as the rest of the girls come over. They tell him that Aika never talks to them, so they think she hates them. Later, the maid takes Kamito to his room, which they've set up to look exactly like his old room, including some pics of women's legs, which makes the maid start to wonder. But our guy plays it off, kinda well. The maid tells him she'll be his personal maid from now on because that's how they roll in this school, though she admits she'll do as little as possible for him because she's not exactly thrilled. Later, Aika shows up in Kamito's room and is blown away by all the commoner culture stuff there. She accidentally blurts out that maybe some of those things could help her achieve her biggest wish, to be popular. Kamito is surprised that's her biggest wish and they start chatting about it. Aika confesses she can't lie or pretend and that everything she thinks and feels just comes out without her being able to control it, which embarrasses her a lot. That's why she always keeps her distance from her classmates to avoid any slip-ups that might make them dislike her. Then Aika gets this idea that if being a commoner is now cool, maybe embracing that could help her gain popularity. She asks our main guy to teach her how to be more commoner-like. Feeling a bit sorry for everything she's been through, Kimito agrees to help her out. That same day, Kimito speaks in a hall in front of all the girls at the institution about commoner life, and they're all amazed to find out how advanced and different the commoner world is, getting especially shocked over things Kimito mentions about his everyday life, like taking a train. It's the second day at school and Kimito starts to feel uncomfortable with all those rich people dynamics, like having a maid who wakes you up in the morning and folds your clothes before you can even think about taking them off. Through it all, the maid continues to be suspicious of our guy's heterosexuality, and he reminds himself all the time that he has to pretend to like men. Kimito can't move around common places because his presence creates commotion continuously, so he has to go out the back door of the residence. There she crosses paths with Aika, who also uses that place to avoid her companions. On the way, Aika tells him that that day starts the Vulgar Club in which they will both be participants. Kimito tells her that he has no problem helping her, but in return he expects her to help him understand how everything works in that school and the ways of the rich. Aika refuses because she is lazy and says that the class president can comment on that, but our guy is very intimidated because she is so perfect, so he expects Aika to help him. Clearly, this comment doesn't sit very well with the girl. For the rest of the day, the class president approaches Kimito to tell him that they are having a party in his honor. Throughout the day, the class president demonstrates great skills in all areas, from gardening to gymnastics to studying. This generates great jealousy in Aika, who is not very good at all those things. In gymnastics, our guy's ability attracts a lot of attention from the girls, and this added to a fall in gymnastics causes Aika to isolate herself even more from all the groups. After gymnastics, the girls walk to the place where they will celebrate the welcome of our guy and take the opportunity to ask about Aika. Seeing them together all the time, they begin to wonder if they are really the problem, but Kimito assures them that it has nothing to do with them, that he has his reasons. This reassures the girls, who realize that if they are not the problem, then there is still a chance that they can get together with Aika and be liked. Later they share dinner at the celebration, and the menu is written in such a leitmotif that Kimito doesn't understand anything and ends up ordering Japanese food. Then the maid serves her instant ramen. Kimito assures them that this is too vulgar even for them, because it is not something they eat all the time, but the girls around him get excited because they have never seen anything like this before. Kimito then explains to them that they just have to put water and the food is ready, and then they all order instant ramen. Upon tasting it, they get so excited that our guy can't believe what is happening, but he is happy. For her part, Aika is alone happily eating her dinner away from all the other people. At other times, Kimito teaches Aika vulgar people things, such as waiting when greeting someone. At the end of the day, Kimito approaches the steam room and accidentally bumps into the class president, who comes out of the steam room and is completely unclothed. Uncomfortable and hoping not to have his male organs removed, Kimito runs out. But the president is left thinking that after that they should get married. The next day, Kimito acts as if nothing is wrong, hoping that nothing will become too awkward, but the president keeps dropping hints about marriage, even though he doesn't pick up on them at all. The days goes by inside the school, and Kimito does not get used to the level of the institution, but neither to the constant stares that follow him everywhere. He can't eat, study, or even go to the bathroom without all the girls around him looking at him strangely. One day, he finds out through a text message and the maid's explanation that his family allowed his stay in that place in exchange for big transformations in their house. Basically, they sold him to enlarge their family house. Later, our guy finds himself alone as usual after school. There he sees how a girl writes on the ground in the park, which is very strange to him because no young lady would do something like that. Suddenly, she starts to take off her clothes, and Kimito rushes over to give her his clothes. Seeing that after girls are approaching, he pulls her out of there and takes her to his room, asking her to cover up. The girl's name is Haku, and she is very particular, seeming to live in a dream world and being detached from reality. When Kimito tells her that she has to get dressed, she claims that she doesn't know how to dress herself, and our protagonist helps her. Then, she asks who he is, and Kimito tells her that she must have seen him in the round of questions a few days ago, but the girl claims that she was locked in the lab those days. This seems strange to our protagonist, but he doesn't ask any questions about it. Then, the girl claims that she has low sugar levels, and seeing no other option, Kimito prepares her famous ramen for her. At first, Haku says he can't eat it, but after tasting the first bite he quickly finishes the dish. After eating, she falls asleep on the floor. Kamito claims that he can't let her sleep in that place, and when he touches her head to wake her up, the girl gets up strangely and out of nowhere starts writing on the desk. While doing so, she takes off her clothes, just like the previous time. At that moment, Aika enters the room and treats our protagonist as a pervert. Later, Kamito takes Haku to where he lives and their maid thanks him for taking care of her. He then takes out a camera stating that they must photograph all the notes she made during the day, and after this he explains to our guy that the girl is a great mastermind in the global fields of mathematics and physics and that much of that place is paid for only with the patents of the girl's discoveries. Then, he is surprised that the girl has eaten because she only eats the same food every day at the same time, which is usually very particular. When Kamito is about to leave, Haku grabs him by the shirt and asks him to stay, and our guy tells him that he must go, but he can visit him whenever he wants. This surprises his maid even more, who had never seen the girl socialize so much or be interested in anything outside her area of expertise. Another day she crosses paths with a girl with a katana who wants to kill an insect and almost harms our guy. Seeing that everyone around him thought she wanted to kill him, he had no choice but to pretend it was so to avoid embarrassment. After attacking for a while and Kamito dodges all the attacks, he decides to stop her and defeats her. She wonders how strong the Vulgos are that he could defeat her so easily. At the same time, she gets angry because she spent too much time developing that move to be defeated so easily by the one who is supposed to be the weakest of the Vulgus. However, she later accepts that she is defeated by him and decides to take him as her master, but warns him that as soon as she sees that she surpasses him in power, she will take his life. Minutes later, in the corridors it is whispered that Kamito managed to get the girl with the katana to be his servant. Later, Aika tells our protagonist about her plan to have a party to invite everyone via cell phone messages in order to gradually become popular. However, there is a problem. No one there has a cell phone but him, and it is not very easy to get one. Well, actually it is. Our guy and Aika meet with Haku, who tells them that she herself has created many cell phones and that's why she can give one to everyone in the class. She then asks Kamito if he wants them to join the network, but he says it's better if they can only communicate with each other. Trying out the cell phones, the three of them, plus the girl with the katana, end up taking a picture with Aika's new cell phone. The class president approaches Kamito to invite him to a tea party in her room. Nothing special, something they do every week, but Kamito's invitation is something special. Our main man states that he would like to go after school, but Aika shows up at that moment to remind him that he has plans with her. Although the boy tells her that they are not so urgent that he can't go to the tea party, he ends up giving in so as not to be treated like a pervert with the president. Unwillingly, Kamito approaches the chairwoman to tell her that he must decline the plans because he had already made other arrangements with Aika, and the chairwoman reassures him that she understands the situation. However, that afternoon at the tea party, all the girls start talking about how close Aika and our protagonist are. Although the president wants to convince herself that she's only asking him for advice because she's worried about the current situation, the other girls comment that he spends too many hours in his room, so there's surely something else going on. Especially because it is a bit suspicious that Aika only opens up to Kamito, when in all the time she spent with them she never spoke to them. Despite hiding it well, the president begins to feel jealous and sad about this. However, after a long time talking about it, one of the girls proposes the theory that maybe the two boys are boyfriend and girlfriend, which shocks the president out of her senses, who at that moment shuts her up and leaves the room without saying anything else. Meanwhile, in Kamito's room, Aika asks our guy to help her plan her vulgar party with which she will become very popular in school. Later, Kamito finds the girl crying, and upon learning what happened, he goes to the president's room to talk to her. After getting more details, he decides that he will help her. When he tells her that he has to find some way to help the president, the only one that comes up as an option is the vulgar party. Although he doesn't want to use that as a remedy, Aika, enraged, proposes that it is the only way to fix things. Even though it is her job and it is for her to become popular, there is no point in having the party if the whole class is fighting and if the president is sad. After deciding this unilaterally, Aika leaves in a huff, but Kamito smiles because she knows she is a good girl even though she tries to pretend otherwise. The next day, then, Kamito stands in front of the class to explain about the vulgar party. There, the president appears dressed as a vulgar girl and hands a cell phone to each of her classmates, explaining how cell phones and selfies work. After this, she apologizes for her behavior and they all make up. At the end of the class, when they have all left, the president thanks Kamito for everything she did for her and the fact that she thought of an event just to help her touches her deeply. However, at that moment, Kamito explains to her that it was actually all Aika's idea and that she had planned that party to befriend them but put it aside and gave the idea to Kamito, who was going to be of great help in cheering up the president. At that moment, all the idealizations of the president are shattered. All her plans for the future and her marriage to Kamito seem to disappear from her mind. Totally disappointed, heartbroken, she then runs to Kamito's room to confront Aika. There she states that she hates her, detests her, and for a long time she thought it was all her fault, but in reality it was always Aika who did what she wanted without asking her advice, and then she goes out with the party without even talking to her? Unforgivable. Yeah, I don't quite understand the problem either. Aika tells her that she hates her too, and after this, both girls start hitting each other until they accidentally hit Kamito, and at that point the fight stops. Later, Aika and Kamito are alone in the room talking about what happened, and the girl states that she doesn't want to be friends with them anymore and that she is fine with things as they are. At that moment, Haku, the girl with the katana, and the president come in to ask to join the vulgar club. Although Aika doesn't want to allow it, Kamito is eager for them to join. But the hatred between Aika and the president makes it very difficult to coexist there. Kamito wakes up one day without the screams of the maid, and Haku is sleeping peacefully next to him. After dressing her, he tries to offer her something to eat, but in his fridge he only has some potatoes. It then occurs to him that he can make potato dumplings, and although Haku only eats what she asks for regularly, she claims that she will eat anything our guy cooks. Kamito then gets to work and after cooking the potatoes starts making dumplings. Haku wants to help him, and so next to him he starts making potato dumplings as well, but seeing that they don't come out right the first time, he gets frustrated and demands even more, which surprises Kamito. An hour later, they are both sitting in front of the food and Haku tries potato dumplings for the first time and finds them delicious. Then the girl finds a book of riddles, something never seen before for her, and Kamito offers to read her riddles for her to guess. But Haku's way of thinking is very different from anyone else's, and the answers are incredibly complicated and far from what is expected. After many failed attempts, the girl is furious that she hasn't guessed anything. Later, Kamito takes her to his room and Haku tells her that he doesn't want to stay away from him, but our guy states that she can go visit him the next day as usual. Meanwhile, at a tea party, the president, the girl with the katana, and Aika are gathered together talking about how close our guy and the girl are. The more they think about that relationship, the more jealous they become and decide to do something about it. So, the next day, the girl shows up at Kamito's room, but Kamito is gone for the day. When Haku decides she has no business being there, she leaves, but before she can walk out the door, the girls lock her in and tell her to spend the day together. However, Haku just stands silently reading without paying any attention to them. The president prepares a tea party with delicious snacks, and although they try to get Haku to eat, there is no way to get a portion into her mouth. Until they realize that she only eats what she orders for the day, and the maid brings her tuna sushi. Later they try to do some activity together, but suddenly Haku starts writing on the wall beads and as usual undresses while they do it. The girls try to get him to keep his clothes on, but it's harder than they thought. And so one by one they realize that Haku is a very particular girl and Kamito has to take care of that every day, even though it seems easier for him. Then they come to the conclusion that Haku closed his heart for them. Later, the maid picks up the girl to take her to her room and Haku claims that she spent the whole day with her new friends, which makes the girls blush. From the institution, they have built a theme park especially to allow the students to experience for themselves the culture of the commoners. To do so, they will go to Shomiland, and Kamito is in charge of providing information to the girls, since he is at the school, the atmosphere is more lively, and there is no one who can better explain the commoners than someone who belongs to that social stratum. After taking a plane, the girls from the institution arrive at the theme park. Then we can see that it is an exact copy of the city where our guy lived, in front of the train station, including all the businesses and streets of the place. The first stop is a kind of MC Donald's, as it is the most popular restaurant among the vulgar, where the girls try fast food for the first time. However, they are so far removed from how fast food restaurants work that they have to get directions on how to order and are surprised that they have to carry their food themselves. For her part, it is the ideal time for Aika to demonstrate her knowledge of the Vulgarian, which she was practicing so many times with Kamito, such as how to order a hamburger combo. However, despite having studied hard on how to order her combo, Aika gets paralyzed and is unable to do it. Finally, The president does it with the help of our guy, and Aika isolates herself as usual, disappointed that she can't carry out her plan. Then they head to a place of games and video games. Aika has been practicing for a long time on the dance floor, but at that point they all seem to be more interested in the stuffed animal machine. Aika is alone and depressed on the dance floor, not trying to dance, and Kamito comes over to help her. But all the girls require the boy's attention and advice to learn how to use the machines. Aika angrily tells him to help them and not to worry about her. By the time our guy finishes helping the girls, Aika is no longer on the dance floor and gets worried. But all the girls ask her to teach them how to dance, and Kamito throws the forbidden steps on the dance floor. However, when they try, they fail because they think it is too complicated. At that moment, Aika appears and gives her advice on how to dance while she demonstrates her winning ability on the dance floor. After the excitement of the moment, Aika realizes what happened and the girl thanks her for her help. Seeing that she is an expert, all the other girls ask Aika to teach them how to dance, and Aika gradually befriends them, as in her original plan. After this, they head to a Starbucks and Aika also takes the lead, explaining to all of them how to roll a coffee, and it's not easy. This way she is positioning herself as the expert in the vulgar and starts to gain a lot of popularity. They no longer ask Kamito, but her. Meanwhile, Haku, who saw Kamito leave, packs her bag to go to the park. The girls go to a clothing store and the girl with the katana wants to buy an outfit but is embarrassed because it is too feminine. Seeing this, and as he is no longer so worried about Aika, Kamito takes advantage of the fact that the girl with the katana obeys his orders and orders her to buy those clothes, leaving her very happy. With Aika's newfound popularity, all the other girls message her. The president seems to be very jealous of her popularity, although she doesn't say a word. What's worse is that they got to share a room. While Aika is happy about her newfound popularity and says that she will get over sharing a room with the girl she hates, the president seems to get angry. Aika understands that something is wrong, but the president doesn't say anything. Then Aika asks her to help her compose a message that she will send to everyone. When the angry president says to ask Kamito for help, Aika says that she just needs her because it is something very important. It is the reason why she has been avoiding everyone up to that point, and the president always knows what to say. So, with the help of the president, Aika manages to compose a nice message explaining why she stayed away from everyone, but wants to be friends with them. She then thanks the president because it's all thanks to her, and the two seem to become friends. The next day, all the girls surround Aika as they want to be friends with her. Kamito observes this and is happy. Later, they both pass each other in the hallway and Kamito congratulates her for finally achieving her dream, which is to be popular. For this, she says that there will no longer be the vulgar club. She has achieved her goal and can now go to normal clubs like a normal girl. This saddens Aika. Later, Kamito is in the sauna when Aika appears and tells her to leave, but just then the other girls appear and Kamito has to hide underwater. The girls leave after a while. Due to the long time he hides underwater, Kamito loses consciousness and Aika has to give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to save him. Just then the other girls come in and think that the two boys are kissing. After this misunderstanding, rumors begin to spread in the hallways that they are dating and the girls walk away when they are together. Back at the institution, Aika tells the girl with the katana, Haku, and the president what really happened, and the president offers to help her, but they decide that they will let some time pass and then fall out again. Later, we learn that the maid, who claims to hate Kamito so much, takes advantage of when he is asleep, and before waking him up she kisses him. On a normal day at school, Aika and Kamito are having a conversation about reading the future, and our guy explains to her that they currently read the future using their smartphone. Hearing this, Aika gets excited and asks him to show her. Kamito then shows her a sort of cell phone video game in which the Sailor Moon protagonist reads people's futures. Aika tries it out and, like all those future reading things, Sailor enunciates the most general and adaptable words to any situation, and Aika feels that she was indeed read the future and is incredibly happy. At that moment, the rest of the friends enter the place and then they all decide that they want their fortunes read. Minutes later, the president, Haku, Aika, and the girl with the katana are in the room together with Kamito, all waiting for their futures to be read. There they all rejoice because they like what Sailor has said about them and because they believe that it does indeed go with their personality. All except the girl with the katana. When she angrily grabs Kamito's cell phone to try her luck again, she notices that one of the options in the game is to test compatibility with the person you like. So they all get tense and anxious because they want to test their compatibility with Kamito. Kimito notices that the atmosphere starts to get tense and proposes to do another activity, but the girls force him to test compatibility with some silly excuses because they are embarrassed to accept that they want to know if they would be a good match for him. The first one is Aika, and she gets an 80% compatibility, which makes her very happy. However, the joy fades when she sees that the compatibility of our protagonist with the president is 90 points and they are fit to marry. The president sees that all her dreams of getting married are possible and starts blushing and shouting with joy. Then it's Haku's turn, and he gives her just 50% match. She looks a little sad, and the rest of the girls get uncomfortable and offer to give her sweets to improve her mood. The girl with the katana gets 100% compatibility, which generates a lot of chaos and fights with the rest of the girls. While they fight to see who is more compatible with our protagonist, the boy and Haku leave the room to go eat pancakes. The next day, the girl with the katana starts to put Sailor's advice into practice in order to conquer Kimito. However, she misinterprets and thinks she should attack him, so she ends up tearing the boy's shirt with her katana. To sew his shirt, they go to the girl's room, and there she proves to be a tender and loving person despite the violence and hostility she always shows, plus she has beautiful legs for a leg fetishist. The way he treats her only accentuates her desire to be his wife. Haku, in her room, is totally lost in her thoughts because after learning that her compatibility with Kimito is only 50%, she can't stop thinking about it. While the girl is thinking about it, one of her maids enters her room and observes how, with the ingredients of her lunch, Haku has drawn Kimito's face. Telling the other maids about this, they're excited because at 14 years old Haku is finally starting to show signs of maturing and decide that they will take Kimito there so that she can get to know her better. Meanwhile, at another point, Kimito explains to her friends that maids are a common sight in the vulgar world. Although they do not exist in real life, unlike the millionaire girls who have them, in the commoner world it is normal for men to like maids as something unattainable, almost like idols. So the girls come up with the idea of making a maid cafe, where they themselves are the maids, but it is very difficult for girls who are used to be served and not to serve, especially because they have to do humiliating things like serving juice with love and dances and things like that. Despite that they try, but everything quickly gets out of control and it's the real maids who have to show up at the place to clean up the mess Kimito's friends left behind. Haku's maid, upon learning that Kimito likes maids, takes the opportunity to invite him to her place to get to know her even better. There, Kimito observes the incredible way in which Haku works and is surprised by her great intelligence. Then, Haku gives him a tour of the place and takes him to his resting place, where he clears his mind. After that, they head to the dining room to share a meal. Although the friends behave as usual, the maids, who are following them all the time, melt with tenderness every time they see them socializing. And, at the same time, they do everything they can to make the youngsters spend more time together, for example, by forcing them to eat from the same plate. When the maid tells him that they look like boyfriend and girlfriend, and Kimito begins to think that they have some attitudes that could lead him to think that, our protagonist's maid, who is the head maid, appears and cuts off all interaction. Kimito then has to leave, but is grateful to have gotten to know Haku a little better. That night, all the girls' maidservants celebrate together because their plans have worked out wonderfully and now they have to figure out how to move forward in that direction. Kimito calls Aika to talk alone in her room, which catches the girl's attention and she doesn't understand why she tricked the other girls not to go that day. Then, seriously, she hands her a gift box containing a yellow suit inside. It's time to go to the next level of popularity, for that she must improve her Gets Dance and wear that suit, just like the man who invented it. Aika, who has already been tricked many times by Kimito to embarrass herself, doesn't believe him. But after he shows her videos of the man dressed in yellow doing the Gets Dance and salute, and showing her all the interactions he has, Aika is convinced. So she practices the dance and the greeting over and over again, while Kimito films her with his cell phone. When he is about to confess to her that it's all just a hoax again, Aika runs off excitedly to show her friends her new dance. Kimito wants to chase after her to avoid being made fun of, but on the way she trips over her maid and loses sight of Aika. Meanwhile, on the way, Aika meets the president, and when she asks her about the costume, Aika explains everything, that it is a gift from Kimito, the greeting, that it comes from a well-known man, and that all commoners use that greeting, so it is super important to know it. The president says that she wants to learn it too, and Aika gets down to work to teach her how the greeting works perfectly. Excited, They say they will share this new information with all their classmates. By the time Kamito enters the classroom, all the girls are wearing a yellow outfit identical to the one he gave Aika and have learned the greeting gets. At another point, Kamito is in his room talking on the phone and commenting that while the place he's in at the moment is nice, he's a little tired of girls, everything smells like girls, and everything is very girly and it's a little tiring. For our protagonist, it's much better to be with men and he misses that a little bit. The president, who had just come to his door to talk to him, hears these words and leaves in concern. She then tells her friends what she heard and they all think that Kamito wants to leave the place and go home. None of them want that, so they plan to do everything to make him feel more comfortable, and what is the best option? To behave like men. However, since they only know Kamito, they have very few references about how a man behaves and half of the things are misunderstood. But they do know one thing, Kamito likes muscular men. So they get one of those muscle suits and Aika decides she will be the one to wear it. So, they add one thing after another until they form what they consider to be the male figure, but it is clearly a bizarre mix of things that only generates a laugh. This is how they present themselves to Kamito, who doesn't understand anything that is happening. When they explain that they do it because they heard him talking on the phone, Kamito laughs and thanks them for having made an effort for him, assuring that he will continue studying in that school. Kamito meets the chairwoman after class as she has forgotten her pencil case, and chatting, the chairwoman tells him that she wants to ask him something. Embarrassed, she asks him how he is doing in the flower arranging class, and after our guy's answer, she asks him if he needs help. Kamito tells her that would be great, and they eventually end up agreeing to go on a date. Then, while they are at the vulgar club, they all think about what activity to do that day, but the president reminds Kamito of the promise she had made to him and they all get jealous, but the president says it's a secret and she can't tell them. However, before things get more tense, one of the president's employees appears to notify her that her brother and mother are in the institution, which worries the girl. But that's not all, they also want Kamito to go. Upon arriving at the place, the mother is sitting very peacefully in front of the director of the institution, but the president's brother is incredibly angry. He cannot allow a man to be in the corridors of the institution as if nothing, close to his sister, who is very dear to him. However, they try to calm him down, saying that our protagonist is only attracted to muscular men. This doesn't help at all, because now he thinks he is also a pervert. Anyway, after the discussions, they tell the president the real reason why they are there. They have found a husband for her. One of the aristocratic families has offered a large sum of money for the president to marry their son, and her family accepted. Later, Kamito talks to her friends and tells them that she does not agree with marrying women without their consent and that clearly the president was in a bad mood and did not want that, but after all, this was a school to train wives. That same day they take the president home. Before leaving, her brother wants to approach Kamito, but the mother does not allow him to cross words. Later, while the vulgar club realizes how much they miss her, Aika calls the president's private cell phone and she confesses that she does not want to get married, leave the school, or go away from them. The next day, the group contacts the president's brother, who confesses that he wants to break the marriage deal. So, they agree, and with the help of all the maids, including Kamito's maid and the president's brother, the whole group of the vulgar escapes from the institution to save their friend from a marriage that will only bring unhappiness. The group arrives at the mansion where the president's family is staying. However, at the gates are dozens of guards with wooden swords. It seems that someone warned the family about the criminal plans they were planning to commit. The girl with the katana is excited to see other people with swords and decides that she will confront them in order to see how powerful the commoners are and to test her own power. So, in one move she manages to defeat all the guards. And then, with her new special ability, she launches an incredible attack that manages to shatter the entrance wall, allowing our group to enter through there. On the way, other guards appear, but the girl with the katana decides to take care of them. Further on, a man cuts them off, but the president's brother is left fighting him while the rest move on. Once inside the mansion, and after overcoming several obstacles, including a powerful robot that is easily defeated, the group manages to reach the room where the marriage agreement is about to be signed. There, Kamito expresses his opposition to the marriage through a long speech. Aika does the same, bringing everyone to the verge of tears. But the president's mother is not moved and asks the guards to remove their guests, because after all, the president has decided to accept the marriage, understanding how important it is for her family. However, at that moment, the president, who until then had kept quiet, decides that she will not ruin her whole life for the sake of her family and states that she does not want this marriage. Her mother tries to manipulate her by saying that if she refuses, she will not be able to return to the institution anyway because it is only for prestigious families and she will no longer belong to a prestigious family. But that doesn't matter to the president, who stands firm in her position. Understanding that the president would be kicked out of her own house, Kimito proposes that she come to live with him and his parents, promising that he would take care of her even though he is not a millionaire. She accepts and the wedding ends up being cancelled, at least the one that was agreed upon before, because due to the words of our protagonist, everyone understood that he was asking her to marry him and now he is forced by the president's mother to get married. After much chaos, jealousy from the other girls and some fisticuffs from the president's brother, our guy manages to talk to her alone and affirm that it was all a misunderstanding. Although the president apologizes for everything that happened, she still makes it clear that if it were up to her, they would get married. However, she cannot continue to develop the idea because at that moment the other girls of the vulgar club enter and a new fight starts due to jealousy. A situation that never seems to end.